Hello and welcome back to the Beefy Tech channel. Boy oh boy, do I have a generic ass tech video for you guys today. So this right here is my 13700K, well, the box of my 13700K, and I've had it for a while now. Actually, I bought it in the same exact time with this guy right here, which is the 5800X3D. And they were both awesome CPUs at the time. They performed kind of on par mostly. Mind you, this one did have slower RAM at the time, so I'm assuming the 13700K is faster today, assuming you have the RAM to back it up, but it's been a great CPU, and I'm planning to put it in my streaming rig. Now, Intel 14th Gen is right around the corner, and I'm currently rocking a 7800X3D, that's the wrong way around, as my current daily. I did have the 7950X3D for the longest time, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it was not really the best experience, especially for somebody that just wants to sometimes enjoy games rather than have to tweak constantly. So I switched to the 7800X3D as my daily, and I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I think this even performs better because it runs faster RAM and better FCLK, and not only that, I cannot tell a difference even in video editing and rendering, which is a bit scary because what's the point of the 7950X3D then? Even as a creator, I couldn't see much of a difference, but the point of today's video is actually, is there even a purpose to Intel 14th Gen, given how good a 7800X3D is and how good last generation Intel is? We're getting a refresh with 14th Gen, so nothing too spectacular basically. Let's quickly jump over on the computer and go over some leaks and data about 14th Gen to see if it's really worth your time and money. Let's begin with an article from Tom's Hardware, and remember, take all this info with a grain of salt. It's all pre-release and it's all speculation basically. Even the leaks could just be completely made up. So what it says over here is that Intel Core i9-14900K will show up to a 10% increase in single-threaded performance. And yes, this is a leaked benchmark. They're saying over here that these results should theoretically be quite accurate, but they're also mentioning to take it with a grain of salt. And to be honest with you, you definitely should take these results with a grain of salt, because I'm seeing some really funky numbers over here if you take a look at the charts. 978 single-threaded performance for the 13900K, then 945 for the KS, then 978 for the 14900K. That does not sound particularly right to me. I could understand the multi-threaded performance being increased if both the E-cores and P-cores got a frequency boost and they're able to hold that frequency boost for longer. But the single-threaded performance makes absolutely no sense, especially on the 13900K. But I do fully believe that the real upgrade is not going to come directly from the frequency boost it's going to be able to sustain and how much higher it's going to be able to take them, but rather by the fact that the new Z790 refreshed motherboards will indeed have better RAM performance and RAM support. So going over here, you're going to see that the Z790 Apex has recently been discontinued. And what this essentially means is that they're going to bring out a refresh for the Z790 Apex, which is currently the top dog for Intel. If you get this motherboard, you're pretty much guaranteeing 8000 MHz plus. Now, the Z790 Apex refresh should theoretically guarantee even further than that and be far more consistent. This motherboard on release a year ago had a lot of issues, so I'm really hoping that with a new refresh, they're going to be able to support 8600 MHz like it's absolutely nothing. It currently can already do that, by the way, but it just improves the ease of achieving such high memory frequencies, and that would make the 14900K plus a refreshed Z790 Apex completely worth it over even a 13900KS and current Apex. I would personally be expecting 10 to 20% gains as long as it can indeed drive the memory frequency higher along with the normal boost frequencies of the CPU. What you have in front of you is results from Call of Duty's benchmark with the 13900KS, Z790 Apex motherboard, and DDR5 8000. Yes, these parts are all overclocked, and thank you to Crypto for providing me a plethora of results with this KS, so I do have a good point of reference for what is a best case scenario on Intel. So looking at these results, you may see that the CPU average FPS is hanging around 480. And he says he's even hit around 490 if when he was able to run 5.9 GHz. These results are at 5.8 to clarify, meaning that if the 14900K is able to consistently run 6 GHz, it will easily, even with just DDR5 8000, beat the 500 FPS cap, which at that point, it's better than most of the generic 7800X3Ds and 7950X3Ds. Okay, but we're comparing a top dog Intel KS CPU to to a generic 7800X3D or 7950X3D. Taking a top dog 7950X3D or 7800X3D would be more around the 540-550 mark in terms of average CPU FPS. Now, what that essentially means is that the RAM would have to make up the rest of the way. Unless the 14900K is capable to beat such a high 540-550 average CPU FPS, it on its own will probably not make it. So the RAM will be what has to save it. For those of you actively looking to build a rig of this sort, I do need to mention I made a parts list to roughly recommend what you should go for, with the exception of, full custom loop, because that I could not include in this particularly. I just put a generic AIO in there that I know is extremely good. It's possibly the only AIO that can fully properly cool the upcoming 14900K, and I also replaced the 14900K with a 13900KS because the 14900K is not out yet. As a fair note, there's two RAM kits that you should currently be looking out to buy. There's the Team Group T-Force Delta 32GB 8000 CL38 and a 48GB 2x24 8200 CL38 kit. Do keep in mind that the 2x24 48GB kit will be more RAM, but it will also be harder to tune and overclock because it is a lot more RAM density. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to leave these two right here, and these are the ones I definitely recommend if you're looking to make a Z790 Apex build. On that note, the Apex itself is basically been discontinued and out of stock forever. So it's really hard to get it basically. And if you cannot get one now, you can actually wait for the V2 version of the Apex and get it once it does release. But the expected release date is around November. So it will be way after the 14900K comes out. Meaning that if you do want to build a 14900K build day one, you're going to have to either go with a 4 dimmer, and I wish you good luck with that because it's going to suck ass to try overclock anything on a 4 dimmer, or go for the Acer Tachyon motherboard, which is the next best option in the lineup basically. Now, that motherboard is a bit lesser when it comes to overclocking, but it will still be more than enough to run 8000 or maybe even 8200. Overall though, if you can get an Apex, get an Apex. Get these two RAM kits, one of the two, whichever one you want to get. An Arctic liquid freezer on the minimum. Ideally, you delete the CPU too, but, you don't want to ask too much of people, to be fair, because even I won't be doing it to begin with. I'll deal it later down the line. A 4090, because, if you're getting these specs, you probably have a 4090. And then this one's going to be funny, because you want a minimum of 1350 watts. Minimum. If you want to have enough spare headroom for any amount of overclocking. This PNY Accelerate 4090 isn't even a 600 watt one, it's a 450 watt 4090. And over here it's estimating nearly 940 watts of power draw. Because yes, the KS is extremely power hungry, and so are the rest of the parts in this system. So on the minimum, go 1350 watt. If you have the money, go for 1600 just so you don't have to worry about it. That way you'll know you have a power supply that can take all of your high-end parts. And yes, I am indeed going to buy the 4900K, a V2 version of the Apex motherboard, and the rest of the parts that you see up on screen. I plan to do basically a max overclock without a D-lid, and a max overclock with a D-lid. I will indeed be using an Arctic Liquid Freezer 420, and I will not be going custom loop, just to keep my life simple, because I swap out parts constantly and don't have time for custom loop stuff. With that said though, that means I'll basically be moving away from my 7800X3D system, attempting to beat it with the 14900K. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed that quick little summary of the 14900K release and what my plans with it are. I did also throw in some recommendations over there, and please do take them seriously. I made a huge mistake when I bought the 13900K, and I bought it with a 4-DIMM motherboard and shitty RAM. That right there is just asking to suffer. You want to get a 2-dimmer for sure, so the Z790 Ares Tachyon, or the Z790 Apex from Asus. The upcoming V2 version of either of those motherboards will probably be great, but you can just buy one of the current versions and assure you're going to get 8000 to 8200 MHz guaranteed, maybe even more. I've seen people run 8600 daily, so it's very possible. Just please do not cheap out on motherboards and do not cheap out on RAM, because otherwise you're wasting your money on the new Intel generation completely. If you want to go cheap, 7800X3D. You can do a sub $900 build with it basically, and match the upcoming 4900K with a shitty motherboard. Now mind you, the 4900K with the best of the best parts will probably win outright, but we'll see. I hope it wins because, I'm paying for it myself, and if it doesn't win, I would have wasted a shit ton of money. But yeah, guys, anyway, see you guys when the 4900K release happens. I'll definitely cover it. And I might not have day one coverage because I am going to be waiting for the V2 version of the Apex, but I'll definitely cover it. Have a good one and enjoy.